Alright guys, MattG here back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Thursday. Today I wanted to talk about the Chicago Huntsmen. I had a video I wanted to make actually for a couple of weeks now talking about the Chicago Huntsmen's chemistry and potentially things not going as well now and as smoothly now as they were when the game first came out. Not the topic of discussion for today though. I might well package that up with a video I wanted to talk about the gunless for Dashy trade, which some people have been talking about, whether that could be an option, which party it could benefit, but that's not the topic of discussion for today. I wanted to talk about some role changes. Looks like Arcites and FormaL have swapped their roles around for the Huntsmen right now. FormaL, of course, has been running the main AR for the entire season so far. When this team was initially put together, I imagine they were thinking, okay, you've got Scump and Envoy on the SMGs, gunless you can kind of flex it, and then you will probably have a 2 assault rifle meta. FormaL and Arcites is going to work out pretty perfectly in terms of that. However, that's not how the game has worked out. Most of the time we're seeing 4 SMGs being run, and also now, except on Azure Cave, of course, and also we now have the MP7 coming into the meta on certain maps, meaning that, if anything, SMGs are even more viable in certain situations. So they've switched it around. Arcites looks like, at least from yesterday's scrims, he's running the main AR and FormaL is running the SMG. An interesting change. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll go over that in the coming minutes. Like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Let's hop right into it here. Firstly, just wanted to quickly mention this on Dashy because people have been talking about why exactly is he benched. I saw this interesting meme here that came up on Reddit. People saying how it's actually friendship related potentially. I don't really think there's any truth to this, but who knows? I think it's probably Slasher who calls most of the shots there, but we have to take into account that, you know, MattG is rooming with JCap, the Oak Boys, all of that stuff, right? And MattG being the general manager, JCap being on the team, to what degree is that having an impact on the fact that JCap isn't being dropped and Dashy is? In my opinion, that's not the reason for this change being made, so I don't really think it's hugely relevant, but it is something to consider. I thought you guys would find it interesting. Just to kick things off here then with this funny clip from Scump's stream yesterday, he like absolutely just world stars this guy across the map in one bullet. I don't even think he intended to get the kill by any means, but there was legitimately a guy one shot over in the sofas area right here. Kind of a nasty clip. I'll put it on full screen. As you can see, Scump's reaction is pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm back, sandbags?
Yeah, we fell too short.
Fine. That's good, that's good. Good job.
One shot, app
Table
short.
dead.
App short,
Live your
challenge.
short,
App dead. One more behind him.
Short
Dead.
dead,
He's
short dead.
table,
Yeah,
table,
good
table,
job,
beat on.
I've left.
Yeah, two behind Gen right now,
Morning,
guys.
So let's move on to this role change topic. I saw this thread that went up on Reddit about 12 days ago now, and I've kind of been saving it up to maybe talk about at some point or another, and it now has come to fruition. So Throne_away account says FormaL should run a sub and Alex should run the main assault rifle. That's Arcites, of course. Legit Huntsmen have great gunning and teamwork, but FormaL's positioning and just being slow when needed just isn't there. I think Arcites is doing a great job and excels at both, but right now he should run the main AR. So he's talking about Hero and Azure Cave. Arcites will run the AR, and in some situations, maybe in search, you'll pull it out, but most of the time, in most of the respawns, he's running an SMG, which does feel kind of strange, but that's one of the reasons why FaZe is such a good team right now, right? Similar thing happened in past gods. Matt switching back to MattG made their team better. That's maybe a questionable statement that we could talk about the LG team last season, but we'll go on to that. I'm not saying they're not a top 3 team right now, but I genuinely think they would be right there with FaZe, and even better than them if Arcites was running the main assault rifle. I also think because they're a top 3 team right now, they won't consider switching. Well, obviously a lot of things have changed since, well, not really since then. We already knew the online league stuff 12 days ago, but you know, who knows whether the fact it's an online league makes things easier to change. So these were some of the comments on that. Arcites is better at both. FormaL is a better AR than he is in SMG, so they're staying at right now. He switched to MattG. They were straight up average last year on that LG team, baiting for Bracken Skies, to be honest. So I don't know. FormaL was pretty good with the MattG, to be honest, I thought, and the role he was playing on that team, if anything, that did make the team better. I was kind of happy to see that, in my opinion. And yeah, of course, it's just a discussion at the end of the day. So this came out yesterday from Gunbolt. Just before we hop into all the statistics here, I wanted to share this clip from FormaL's stream yesterday of him using the MP5 and having some pretty damn good results.
Next one shot tree door, next one shot tree door.
Left.
Michael front, Nick, Michael front.
I think this one bottom.
Next shot, next
I
shot.
mean, no, pillars.
Pillars, front door, more pillars. Dead, both dead.
Pillars.
Pillars again, metal's dead. Spawning base sneak. He'll be a sneak.
I'm in dead.
Pillars, pillars.
Alley, metal's dead.
I'm in.
Ladder.
Two top mid.
Yeah, one more ladder, I think, too. I'm hitting up on him, I'm turning it out.
So this was a scrim set yesterday against the Toronto Ultra. They went 4-4 in terms of map count on the whole. The question they're trying to answer, of course, is whether the potential benefits of having Arcites versus FormaL on the main AR outweighs the drawbacks of having FormaL versus Arsties on the MP5 for most maps. Overall KD plus or minus, Arsties 1.35, FormaL 0.86, and of course it's very easy here to look into the statistics, and there's a couple of caveats, I guess, that we can get into in a second, but these are the maps they played: Hackney Yard, Gunrunner, Azir, Cave, Ramazza, St. Petrograd, the hardpoints, and then Hackney Yard, Gunrunner, St. Petrograd for the dominations. Went 4-4 overall. These are Arsties' KD, these are FormaL's KD on the whole over the course of the maps. There's a couple of caveats here. FormaL ran an additional AR on Azir Cave, of course, and then they quit right before the end, so we didn't know how they performed on St. Petrograd. But thanks to Gumball for putting this together. Just before we have a more in-depth discussion here, I wanted to look at the overall stats from Chicago so far this season. You should all be able to see that on screen right now. So Arsties sitting at a 1.09 as a flex player, FormaL is the main AR at a 1.12. So interesting to see, of course. Really good stats from FormaL, to be honest. Arsties being the second AR, pulling it out on some maps, but not all maps for sure. Is probably why he has the second best KD here. But, you know, it's pretty interesting to see FormaL at 1.12. Good stat line for sure, but compared to some of the assault rifles right now, Arctane putting up a 1.28, Wuskin with a 1.4, you know, the likes of Skies with a 1.25 or something like that. You know, FormaL isn't quite getting there, but the rest of his team's performing well, and they won a championship here in London. So what difference does it really make, right? So interesting that we see this potential change come about. Just wanted to mention before we go into these stats, this from Swade, who says, another disclaimer for folks who don't know and simply look at the stats. FormaL's playing from LA, Los Angeles. The rest of the team's playing from Texas. Neutral host was in Virginia, which is pretty interesting. Just brought up a map here for those of you who aren't very geographically inclined to the US. Los Angeles is over here somewhere. Texas is over here. Neutral host being in Virginia is strange to me. Doesn't look like equal distance to my eyes. But maybe I'm wrong. The Earth is round after all, so maybe these lines that I'm trying to draw aren't totally accurate. But still, pretty interesting. Regardless, FormaL clearly was in a difficult spot here if the neutral host is in Virginia and they're playing from Texas, right? So that is definitely something to consider. Always a main AR role issue with Arsties, and it isn't his fault. This is what happens when you play with two of the greatest main ARs ever. Of course, last season playing with Clayster, and Clay replies here saying that, okay, PPSHFG wasn't so good back in the World War II days, but last season with the ICR, he feels like it was pretty damn good. So, you know, some interesting discussion, but kind of off topic for the time being. So let's have a look back at these stats here and see if this is a legitimately good change. To be honest, FormaL hasn't been so good for the last, I don't know, several months, especially compared to what he was back in Infinite Warfare. You hear the name FormaL, you're expecting this guy to be like absolutely dominant, right? And in the Infinite Warfare, you know, champs especially, that was probably the best version of any Call of Duty player we've really ever seen. Completely untouchable at event, and he has been for, well, the Infinite Warfare season, really the latter half of it, especially we had the Octane versus, you know, Zero battles early on, but FormaL kind of did take over towards the end with pretty much whatever gun he used. We saw great performance in Black Ops 3 as well. World War II obviously wasn't so good. The OpTic Gaming dynasty breaks up. FormaL moves on to the Luminosity Gaming team and has some decent results over there. Champs especially, he was absolutely at world class on the LG team in World War II. If you guys remember, like he dropped like a 1.4, something ridiculous with the STG in hand. And then Black Ops 4 season wasn't so good for them. Had some roster changes. They brought Skies and Brack in towards the end of the season. He kind of moved back to a Maddox and played a role that maybe he wasn't super comfortable with. So, of course, right now, if he's using the main assault rifle for the first part of the season, did win a championship, let's not forget, at the London Home Series, that's probably where he's more comfortable in his role. And as Gumbolt says here, it's a matter of, do you make Arsties more comfortable or do you make FormaL less comfortable? What is going to have a bigger impact on your team? So, interesting to me. I feel like FormaL on the SMG can just not really be a great long-term strategy. I'm intrigued that they are trying it out here. You know, there was talk on OpTic Gaming, of course, when Slasher was the one running the SMG over, you know, Dashy was main AR, Slasher was using the SMG. To me, that doesn't make any sense. Dashy, definitely you want him on the SMG more than you want Slasher on the SMG if it's a choice between the two. For me, I would keep FormaL on the AR, to be honest, but Arsties is just such a great player all around that maybe, given the AR is, you could argue, a more important role in this game. You know, it's tough to say right now, but when you hold on most maps, you have one assault rifle, you often need a lot of action out of that player and to put up some good numbers because your SMGs are going to be flying out first and baiting. If you can't hit the shots as an assault rifle and drop like a 1.2 over the course of a series, your team's often going to struggle, and we see that with the best teams right now. They tend to have an AR who's pretty much dominating, with the exception of Atlanta FaZe, where pretty much all of them go off, and Simp drops a 1.3, so there's that as well. But RCD's in the main assault rifle position. He may well put up better numbers than FormaL. If anything, he's maybe been a better player over the last couple of seasons, I suppose you could say. Then again, FormaL probably top 3 ARs over the last several seasons. It's just, you know, compared to Octane, like in the Infinite Warfare World War II days, we were saying, oh, top 3 ARs the last few years, got to be FormaL, Slasher, Octane, probably the top 3. Now, a couple of years later, you're having a different discussion, right? You're thinking, is RCD's in the mix here? What's going on? And maybe over the last couple of seasons, you could argue Oxtees has been a better player, and he's won more events, right? In the E United team last season, the E United, the RCD's Clayster thing there, the switch up, that game was different, of course, because you had the MattG ICR. This game, you don't really have that situation. So, very, very interesting to see them at least attempting this. I like the idea to change it around. Do I really think this is going to work out long term? I'm not sure, because I don't really think FormaL on the SMG is going to get you a lot of action. Yes, here he drops a .86, which doesn't look great, but of course we've talked about the hosting situation not being ideal for FormaL. But to be honest, I feel like you're going to get more action out of FormaL as a main AR and RCDs as an SMG than the other way around. But some people are saying that FormaL plays too passive, he plays too slow in an AR at sometimes, and sometimes he plays too aggressive, and maybe he doesn't know quite how to position himself and play it perfectly like some of the ARs do. And maybe RCDs has a better grasp of that in the game right now, and therefore he's playing at a better pacing for the rest of his team. Whereas playing as an SMG, you could argue, is pretty easy, right? You just run around and get kills, or at least bait out for your teammates, right? The AR maybe takes more pacing and positioning and is more difficult to do in that sense. And if RCDs has a better grasp of it, maybe that is a better route indeed. So, you know, it's a benefit, it's a, you know, cost-benefit analysis, right? What's the better thing to do? Be intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Let's just go through one more thing before we finish here then. Talking about duos, we talked about like RCDs and Clayster last season and whatever. FormaL, of course, playing with different players throughout his career as well. And FormaL and Scump known as one of the biggest duos. Saw this yesterday that came out from Crimsix. 11 tournaments together, 11 finals appearances, and 9 wins at Clayster. Really cool to see this this banner here. I don't really think anyone looking at it would know what's going on, especially during this whole quarantine period. But still, this was a pretty remarkable statistic that I didn't know about. From playing with Clayster way back in the Ghost days to more recent tournaments that they've played together. They've played 11 championships. They've made the final every single time they've done so. And they've got 9 wins on the board, just like they did, you know, most recently at London. They lost to the Chicago Huntsmen in the finals, and then they go up against this most recent event. They end up winning that grand finals as well. So pretty incredible stuff from Crimsix and Clayster. I did not know they had this kind of results behind them. 1.18 average placing through this duo. So when you talk about best of all time duos, Aches and TB comes up, Scump and FormaL comes up, you know, Scump and Crimsix almost, because they played so many championships together. But, you know, Clay and Crimsix playing 11 tournaments, having 9 wins. I think that's the best record that anyone has outside of maybe Enable and some of the OpTic guys when they won the events back in Advanced Warfare. And they probably have like a 3-0 record or something, like Enable and Scump, for example, as a duo. That's not quite the same thing as we're looking at here. Like if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new as always. All the links will be down in the description box below as always. Take care. I'll see you next time.